Imagine if we were told early on that the thing that made us different is our superpower, that we shouldn't be ashamed of it, but we need to lean in.
Hey everyone, my name is Kareema Bee and I am the senior producer for Kindred. This next guest, I am so excited to have here. I even bought a notebook and a pen because she's always dropping gems. Nigerian American writer, speaker, and truth teller. She is a New York Times best-selling author of books I'm Judging You and Professional Troublemaker. She is the fellow cheekbone queen, and now she has a new book, Rising Troublemaker. Please welcome Luvvie Ajayi Jones. Can you tell us why you wrote Rising Troublemaker and what is a Rising Troublemaker and what is it not?
Yes, I wrote Rising Troublemaker because when I came out with Professional Troublemaker in March 2021, so many people were talking about how they're sharing the message with their teenagers and how they wish they had heard it when they were 17 or when they were 15. And it's ultimately the idea of a troublemaker, a professional troublemaker and a rising troublemaker are people who are committed to making this world better than they found it, elevating the rooms that they are in. They're the ones saying and doing the hard things, whether they're in the room, whether it's on social media. And in order to do it, in order to be a troublemaker, you're going to have to do scary things. You know, I think about the late, great John Lewis, who said, always be ready to make necessary good trouble. And that's ultimately what troublemakers do. In this book, though, I really felt called to write it for teenagers because imagine if we were told early on that the thing that made us different is our superpower, that we shouldn't be ashamed of it, but we need to lean in. Like, how many of us were told we talk too much when we're little, you know, and how many, okay, and now we're making these great livings as speakers, as hosts, as people who are using their words to impact the world. You know, imagine if kids were told early that, you know, you have permission to be in this world and be audacious. You know, you can be somebody who takes up space without apology. So I wanted to write it because this is the book that I wish I would have read when I was in my teenage years, that would have affirmed my journey more.
And how is Rising Troublemaker a continuation of your second New York Times bestselling book, Professional Troublemaker?
Yeah, it's a continuation because I'm actually telling, in Professional Troublemaker, I was telling us about, like, as we exist in this world as these grown folk who we're supposed to have it all together, we don't, right? We're still facing things that are scary every single day. So if people think we have it together, imagine how teenagers are feeling. We're asking them, what do they want to be when they grow up? Meanwhile, that answer is going to change. So it's a continuation because I want to make sure that the message that we are just getting at 37, 38, 40, 50, that they're getting it at 14, at 16, at 18. And it's a great way to also, like, parents and mentors and aunties to have conversations with the young people that they love about things that they wish they knew growing up.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that because we understand from your work that troublemaking doesn't have to be a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
But when we're talking about family, especially Black families, some Black parents don't be having no time for no lip, no opinions, you know? So tell us some qualities that are labeled as negative, but are actually, like, if we want our children to be rising troublemakers, we should embrace.
Being a troublemaker is not about creating chaos, right? It's not about just like getting into random shenanigans or doing something to disrespect somebody. It's about understanding the power of your voice and how you have a right to use it. So I'll use me as an example. When I was growing up, I didn't get in trouble for jumping on trees or trying to touch fire. I got in trouble for telling adults that, like, I didn't like something that they did. For example, like, I'd get in trouble and my mom would be like, why'd you say that to that person? I'd be like, they said something to me first. Okay, I would always advocate for myself. It wasn't that I was disrespecting her, but I would tell her, like, Mom, here's what I was thinking, right? But what it taught me, and because I never got punished for it, even if I got punished for whatever the initial thing was, whenever I'd advocate for myself, she'd hear me out. So it actually taught me that my voice mattered, right? Even if she still went with the same decision, my voice at least mattered to be heard. And I know for Black parents, you know, we live in this world there that Black kids get in trouble for just showing up, for just being themselves. So for parents, I think it's really important to double down on the idea that they matter. Their feelings matter. Their thoughts matter. If their feelings are hurt, let's talk about it. It's with the idea that making trouble sometimes also just looks like saying, hi, you know, that hurt my feelings. And I wanted to tell you so you can hear that.
I want to lean a little bit more into that because that brings me to my next question. We understand, okay, how parents can support their children between each other, right? From parent to child. But we know that Black youth are adultified, right? We have the school to prison pipeline. Our girls are particularly hypersexualized. So naturally, as parents, even if we create a safe space in the house, we're naturally protective of our children for these very reasons when they go out into the world. How do we shepherd our children towards their dreams that gives them space to grow those qualities while also protecting them, right? In a world that where those same qualities can place them at a clear disadvantage.
Honestly, I feel like I wrote Professional Troublemaker so more adults could be protective of kids, right? Like I almost feel like I wrote that book to prepare those of us who are grown-ups to start honoring their voices more, right? So when they understand that their voices matter, we are in the room and we can shield them from some of that. We're the teachers who go, no, don't send her to detention just because she said she needed clarification. No, don't send them to the principal's office just because their hair looks a certain way. Part of the through line of what I do is in the hopes that in whatever the rooms are, that the adults do their part so the kids can grow up to understand that their presence in this world matters. Like, because they do get hypersexualized. They do get, over punished. Who are the ones who are in the room who can advocate for them? So that's the job of the adults. But they also need to start understanding that I need you to start advocating for yourself. Even if there is nobody there for you, even if the world and all these different systems have marginalized us so much and have oppressed us so much that they have tried to steal our voice, even if you are the only, even if you are on an island by yourself, you still matter. The world is going to give you the message that it's going to give you, but I need you to honor yourself. Like I need you to stand feet rooted in the earth, even when they're trying to move you.
You talked about your grandmother so lovingly in the past and your mom. And so that kind of brings me to my next question. When we talk about what you're saying about adults knowing their own voice and showing up for themselves, and inherently that's what they're going to teach their children how to do, right? So how did your grandmother and mother and their identity inform how you learn to show up for yourself?
We all know like an older Black woman who takes up space, who you can't tell nothing, who's been through hell and back and now can be like, can't nothing touch me. For me, that was my grandmother. And the power of those women in our lives is that we're watching them. And even when we don't realize it, we're picking up certain things from them. We're modeling ourselves after them. My grandmother, I didn't realize how much I had modeled and how much I'd learned from her, not from what she was saying, but how she was just showing up, really, until I grew up and I realized, I got some of her energy. Like, what happens if you have the energy of like an older Black woman who you can't tell nothing, but you don't wait till you old and gray to do it, right? What if you don't wait till you're 65 to have the energy of, listen, weapons might form, but they're not going to prosper.
No, they're not.
So for me, my grandmother kind of showed me how she just carried herself in every room. For her, there were no strangers in the world. She could make a friend with a rock, right? Like she would speak to anybody. She would always make sure her voice was heard. I remember, she's this older Nigerian woman. So people used to assume that she couldn't speak English. So I'd sometimes go to her doctor's appointments with her. And I remember one of them I went and she had a new doctor and the doctor turned to me and was like, what year was she born? And my grandmother, who was in the corner, was like, I was born July 31st, 1931. Ask me, I know my birthday. He assumed that I had to speak for her. And she was like, no, I'm gonna take my voice back. I was learning how important it is to take up that space. My grandmother would celebrate herself, celebrate other people. She was deeply loved, but she also let you know when you did something that she didn't like. So it also taught me that I don't have to move through this world constantly just trying to appease people and be nice. She was super kind. That I learned from her. That she's the one who taught me that being kind is way more significant than being nice. Nice is empty. It's kind of shallow. It's chipper. Kind is the one who's might give you a stern word, but kind will make sure you also have a next meal to eat. Kind will make sure that you're not going home empty-handed. Nice is just, hey girl. But kind is, how are you doing? Like, do you need any help? How can I stand in the gap for you? So she taught me kindness as opposed to how people always put all this stock in niceness.
I love that. And bless her for teaching you those things just by showing up, as we were saying.
Yes.
In one chapter, you provide a guide to truth telling and mention common fears that may stop your readers from telling the truth, right? And so this I love this because we're just continuing on this whole in order to speak up for yourself, you got to be true to yourself, right? Yes. So can you talk about at what point you accepted that you had fears, like real fears, and how that
Yeah.
helped you to foster confidence as an adult. Because I feel like those teenage years, I feel like that's when
They
fear
rough.
is at its height. You
Yes.
know, you start to see the world and you trying to figure out who you are, and you have no control, but some independence. And there's just so much going on. So I would love to know, like, when did you have that moment?
Anytime that I said no to something because I was simply afraid, I would end up regretting it. But if I was like, yeah, I'm afraid, but you know what, I'm gonna do that thing. I went skydiving, and that might have actually been a moment that really taught me viscerally what fear and how it shows up. And for me, I was afraid, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this thing. It's wildly audacious. I don't know why I'm doing it, but my friend asked me to do it. I said yes. And I jumped out this plane, and it was so scary. And I remember being like, oh my God, I forgot how to breathe. And then 3 seconds later, I was like, oh, okay, all good. And like, we were given a tour of like Long Island from the air. And I was like, this is amazing. And I think about that moment, about how the fear could have stopped me from doing it. It was such an exhilarating experience. And it showed me that I could really do anything I put my mind to. Even when we're talking about speaking the truth and showing up in this world, we're often afraid of those moments. And so we'll stop. We'll have it be like, no, don't do it. When really the fear usually is saying that you are outside of your comfort zone, but that's okay, because on the outside of your comfort zone is usually growth. So just understand that fear is normal. You are supposed to be afraid. It is a natural human feeling. It is actually part of your whole. If you don't have any fear, it's considered a psychological disorder, actually. So there is no real thing as fearlessness. For me, I see fearlessness to really be like, I don't let my fear make me do less. So acknowledge the fact that, yes, I am afraid. And I'm be like, I might even tell you I'm afraid about something. I might even give you the honesty of saying, this scares me, but then I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna charge forward regardless.
Can we lean into what you were like as a teenager when it comes to fear? Because I feel like that skydiving moment, you was grown. You had a bit more together. But as a teenager, what was Luvvie like?
Very much like this. I've always been honest. Here's why. I don't lie well. You can tell when I lie. Like, it show up on my face. I ain't got no poker face. So I actually understood early that like I should probably learn how to lean into this honesty thing, because me lying is not gonna work. People will know anyway. But as a teenager, I had a great group of friends. I wasn't I wasn't on the cheerleading squad or anything like that. I was just somebody who had a good group of friends, who was in school doing hard work. And I think I always just did what felt right, like what felt good, knowing that it might not be what is popular, but understanding that I know who I am, I know what I hold dear. So I was goofy. I thought I was gonna be a doctor. I was very self-assured in that, like, I thought I knew what I was gonna do. I didn't. So for the teenagers who were like, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, it's okay. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. My parents really infused in me that no matter what room I'm in, that I always had a place to come back to, even when I was unsure, even when I didn't know how something was going to pan out, I always felt like I had a safe space. So that's why for me, family is really important.
It sure is. Is there a rising troublemaker, past or present, that you admire?
So many. I think Gen Z is incredible. I think they're going to change the world in such ways that we have not seen. They have the language we didn't have. They're actually more of troublemakers than we were.
They don't have to ask for permission.
They do not. And just watching TikTok, you'll see them. I'm like, they're so bold, but I want to make sure it doesn't get insulted or abused out of them. Ones that I love, Marley Diaz. Marley is incredible. She's so smart. Marseille Martin is another one. Marseille is going to run the world one day. Her and Marley going to run the world, and I want to exist in the world that they run. Zalia Avant-Garde, she is brilliant and confident, and she's just like, I can do anything I want. Like, she's already in the Guinness Book of World Records for dribbling, and then was the first Black girl to win the National Spelling Bee. Like, I am inspired by so much of the work that they're doing, because they're already showing up in ways that we didn't even have the nerve to. And I am here for it.
Absolutely. I love them too. Is there anything else people can expect from the book that you want to highlight?
I'm excited for it because really, like, I wrote this book to like 16-year-old Luvvie, just to tell her that, like, when it gets rough, just keep doing you. Keep honoring yourself. Don't self-betray because you wanna be nice to somebody. Do not bend your own back in order to appease somebody when it betrays you. You know, I wrote this book for the girl who thought she wanted to be a doctor because everybody had told her that's what she should be. You know, so I'm excited for young people to have this book in their hands, to affirm their journey, to let them know that, listen, you might be a strange girl in a strange land with different hair, different tongue. Your name might be weird to people, but stand in it, you know, stand in it, because you're going to grow up and realize all those moments, all those things were to like build you up into this person. And you might go through hell and back, but you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right. So I'm excited for Rising Troublemakers to be in the hands of young people all over the country, and hopefully the world. Like, I'd love to also see this translate into different languages to infuse this courage in all sorts of teenagers all over.
Oh man, Luvvie. Well, thank you so much for being here. We hope that it translates across the world as well, because there's just so many important and powerful messages, especially as it relates to fear and showing up for yourself and knowing that you have a voice, even as a teenager, when the world might want to count you out. So thank you again. Rising Troublemaker, a fear fighter manual for teens, is available for pre-order now everywhere books are sold, and it drops on May 17th. May 17th. So please get it for your inner child and get it for a young person on the rise as well.